Thailand, one of the last countries in the world still in touch with its past, where ancient traditions can be fruitfully adapted to the pressing needs of today. A well-loved king, worthy successor to distinguished ancestors, who uses his ritual sanctity and his personal popularity to get things done that will improve his people's welfare. All this, the king, the country's traditions, the people's welfare, are threatened with communist invasion. But with or without communism, the king sees his role as getting on with a job that needs doing. The king's convoy in action. It leaves more or less every day when he's in the regions and covers about 30,000 miles a year. In spite of losing one eye after his motor accident as a young man, the king likes to drive himself, very fast. He says that it helps him to feel the land, to sense intuitively what it needs. He plans the trips himself and decides when to stop. Once people know that the king is going to pass their way, they lay out carpets in case he might stop. For the feet of a king are not supposed to touch the ground. This taboo, though no longer strictly held, is still exercised, particularly by the country people. The purpose of these tours is always twofold. On the one hand is the improvement in the people's welfare and the development which the king achieves, and this is certainly significant. On the other hand, there is his presence as king among the villagers. Before his visit, they may feel themselves neglected. In his presence, and after he has gone, they know that they are not. In 1 year, the king's convoy gave away to the rural poor 39,038 blankets, 30,778 towels, 31,010 monks' robes, 29,180 sweaters, 29,140 farmers' outfits, 20,340 children's outfits, 34,358 pupils' uniforms. One statistic the palace would not release was the number of lollipops given out, but it must be hundreds of thousands per year. The ladies-in-waiting act as social workers, taking extensive notes on every case so that each one can be followed up afterwards. This means typing up every night, and a lot of work when the court is returned to Bangkok. The King's Chief Information Officer coordinates them. There are a great number of administrative points to consider. For instance, if they take a child from a place like this to hospital in Bangkok, they have to take its family as well and feed and house them. No previous king had ever even visited the northeast. King Bhumibol spent the first 10 years of his reign traveling very thoroughly through every district of the country so that he could see the problems in detail at first hand. This detailed knowledge now forms a base for rapidly expanding work in all kinds of development. Always the encouragement, listening to their problems, helping them to help themselves.
Did they have any particular problem they wanted you to?
No problem. They were very happy. And I asked in what temple they were going, and they said the name, and I looked in the map. And there is a old temple here, and they did not remember the name.
They seem to be very impressed with your geographical knowledge.
Oh, because they are very happy when somebody comes and knows about their village.
But you go everywhere with this map, I notice. It never, not this particular one, but
Yes,
there is never a
one.
map from your hand.
I try to have a map so that I know where I'm going, and they are happy when they know that the official map the village is on their map.
Are there some occasions when people live in villages that aren't marked on your map, or that have the wrong name?
Well, that is what happened now.
What is what happened?
There's a village, there's no name, and I put a name on it.
What's the Royal Household able to do for the people on visits like this?
If they are seriously ill, we take them to Bangkok and we give them the operation or the medicine they need, and they don't have to pay anything. We pay for all the operation and the medicine, and they follow them up until they are well, and we send them home. We give them the money to go home and look after their family also. When their mother or father is in hospital, we look after the children also.
But who actually pays for all this help? Is every single bit of help paid for by the royal family?
Yes. Yes.
What about the medical teams who come? Surely they're paid by the government? Some of the doctors who are coming around with you?
They are volunteer doctors, but the medicine, the royal family pays for the medicine.
Why haven't these people, if they've got something the matter with them, why haven't they gone to the ordinary government medical health service or to the local government hospitals and tried to get help from them?
There are very few government hospitals around here, and sometimes it's a sensitive area. The government officers couldn't get in.
The King's mother, Her Royal Highness the Princess Mother, founded her Flying Doctor Service precisely to cover these gaps in government health care. Her eldest daughter, Princess Galyani, who works as a university lecturer, helps her mother at weekends. As a trained nurse, the Princess Mother is well qualified for this work. Now nearly 80, she remains remarkably fit and continues to work with great energy at a number of projects, but her influence in matters of health has been considerable. Neither she nor her son, King Bhumibol, ever forgets that public health was the life work of his father, Prince Mahidol, who died whilst working as a doctor in the north of Thailand. The Flying Doctor Service was founded in 1969. Border Patrol police helicopters take the doctors into remote rural areas they would not otherwise be able to reach. Radio communication has helped to make the service available throughout the country. There are now more than 20,000 in the service: doctors, dentists, nurses, pharmacists, and health officers. All are volunteers who work for nothing in their holidays or spare time, and they are desperately needed, for there is a great lack of trained doctors in the rural areas. The opening of a new hospital is a more conventional act of royalty. Every state ceremony is prefaced by a religious one. Even in such conventional engagements as these, the King's workload is enormous. 826 official engagements last year. In other words, an average of between 2 and 3 engagements a day, 7 days a week throughout the year. Both King and Queen admit that they have very little time in which to talk to each other in private. Outside the hospital, the crowds wait as usual for a chance to see the royal family. The King will never allow a precise time schedule to be imposed on his day because he needs to be free to stop and talk with people as they present themselves.
She has 8 children and 5 of them are still alive, and she can walk and she can see very well. She can do her homework, but she's a little bit deaf. This is her grandniece, and her youngest daughter is more than 40. 8 children. She's a little bit shy of the camera, so I tell her to smile. These people, the young girls behind them said they are really over 100 years old. They said that they eat ordinarily, but they complained about being so poor and nobody looked after them. So I think we'll just help the neighbors to give some money to the neighbors to look after them. This one is totally alone. That's what she told me, totally alone. But these 2 have distant relatives looking after her.
So far this year, volunteer doctors on the royal team have performed about 250 operations in this area, mostly for eye complaints. Many doctors in the northeast have been killed by communists ransacking hospitals for medical supplies.
Your Majesty, could you tell us about the lady you looked at who had the growth?
She's 21 years old and just married 2 years ago. And she said this growth grows very quickly. In 2 years' time, it's big like you saw it. And the doctor said it's cancer. I don't know, what do you call in English here, sinus, where the sinus is?
The sinus? The sinus.
Yes. She has cancer and it is perhaps the last stage. And we feel very sorry, but we are going to send her to Bangkok with the, what do you call,
For radiation treatment.
Radiation treatment.
How about the small child you looked at? I think this child who had a hair lip.
I think it can be operated here at Sakul Nakhon because we have so many good doctors at Sakul Nakhon Hospital, so it's all right.
An official reception in the grounds of Phupan Palace. At these functions, everyone must take part. Guests are frequently asked to do some kind of turn. Now it is the ladies in waiting. They worked all day as social workers. Now at night, they must change and perform traditional Thai dance. Romeo and Juliet, translated to Thai opera, with Romeo played by one of the volunteer doctors.
เห็นมืดมนจะทนทุกทนเจ้าดวงเดือนเอ๋ย
With the king's many languages, there is rarely any need for an interpreter. There is a great tradition of hospitality among the Thais. The showing of hospitality to foreigners, like Giscard d'Estaing's brother, is considered important for its own sake. The King and Queen received representatives of friendly countries, both formally and informally, turning state functions into personal affairs whenever possible.
I saw that blue, lovely blue.
A natural part of the royal family's job is to promote the country's crafts, culture, and special products, even at parties. The Queen is very much concerned to increase silk production throughout the country. And she makes a point of wearing Thai fabrics herself.
หมายว่าตกไหมเนี่ยตกนิดหน่อยนิดหน่อยเอาตัวนี้หมายยืนด้วยจ้ะจะเห็นกันชัด These dresses are made of Matni silk, which is the material woven in the northeastern part of Thailand. Before it was dyeing art because it is so difficult to make it. It would take many weeks to make it. Have you noticed that a single piece of Matni can have different color? Once you look at it, it seems the color of gold, and if you turn it around, it has the reflect of mauve color. So that's the quality of Thai silk. The people in the northeastern part of Thailand is the big majority of Thai population, and that part is quite dry. There are often droughts. When I visited, I noticed that the people are wearing this, but only a sarong. It is so beautiful and so different from other material. So I asked them to weave it for me. And now I've got the market in the Japan. And soon I hope to get the market in Hong Kong.
In a sense, all official functions are, as it were, extras to the king's main job, his traveling development column. The convoy contains doctors, social workers, agricultural advisors, irrigation engineers, and other specialists as required. Which is more fundamental to the relief of the rural poor? Improved medical care for the sick, or better food for everyone? The two must go together. Better nutrition means better health. The king is well aware that Thailand could have enormously productive agriculture. The problem often comes down to making the best use of available water. There's either too little or too much. Wherever he goes, you will see soldiers. Especially near the border, there is always danger. A spotter plane flies overhead. This is one of the king's new dams. Irrigation is probably the aspect of development to which he contributes most. Apart from his boat with the rudderless engine, the king has designed dams and irrigation channels himself. He has initiated over 400 irrigation projects throughout Thailand, often combining them with the introduction of fisheries. The king instigates these projects, draws up detailed plans, persuades the government to finance them, but continues to take a personal interest in their construction and development. With his quick grasp of the subject, he always makes his experts work hard. And though he seems able to master almost anything he puts his hand to, it is probably the many facets of engineering for which he has the most talent.
Oh, yes.
The king carries a two-way radio with him at all times. He is said even to sleep with it. This means that he's the first to hear of any crisis. But he seems oblivious to everything as he concentrates on the job in hand.
And helped by this water here. So this water we take here, and we must put a small dam here so that they'll have water here. The most important thing is that they should have rice in this area, which doesn't have to be marketed. They eat it. It is their subsistence. They will be able to have self-sufficiency in rice here, which they don't have now because last year, 2 years before, was dry, no water.
What do you think the communist insurgents are telling people about schemes like this that you're involved in?
Depends on the one. Sometimes they will say that they are the initiators of this scheme. Sometimes they will say that this scheme is the devil's scheme. Depends on the man.
But in a sense there's a bit of truth in that, because they might be claiming that were it not for all their action, you and the government wouldn't be doing these things here.
You like to pose this question. This is a half-truth. If they were not there, we would not have trouble. And we would have built this dam a long time ago. But if, because they are there, we must take the trouble to come here, because the people who built this, they want to have some encouragement.
You're saying that this is evidence that you're winning?
Winning against what?
Communist insurgency.
Oh, I don't know. But we are winning against hunger. This is what we are doing. We are not fighting against people. We are fighting against hunger. We want to have them have a better life. If we make this and they have a better life, the people you call the communist insurgents will have a better life also. So everybody is happy.
And so on into the night. Impossible not to be overwhelmed by the energy of this man who works round the clock for his people. What must he think of us, technology-cosseted Westerners? The Queen told us that we could never capture his life on film, because we, with our union rules, would never work the hours that he does. Such powers of concentration, such radiant energy. An army camp. These soldiers have been waiting all day for the king's arrival. That is often the case, but the Thais do not mind waiting. It is still such an honor to see the king. Presents to the soldiers. The hand flick which the soldier gives before he receives the parcel is a gesture of politeness made only to the king, queen, and royal princes or princesses of the highest rank. It is, as it were, a gesture of asking permission to receive direct from the royal hand. The king enters the command headquarters for secret discussions on the military situation, a room which our film crew was not allowed to enter. We are reminded once again that Thailand is at war.
Could you tell us why you think it's so important to come and inspect a military position like this, please?
They have an important task to do, is to keep the area safe, their territory safe, and in fact to help the people, because the people in this area is very, very poor. so poor. This is the place where it is called so-called liberated area, one of the liberated area. It isn't red anymore, but still the fact is the people are very poor still. So the soldier here helps to give them advice on how to grow their crops and how to look after their children. They are loved everywhere, the soldiers, I mean, because they don't fight with arms only, because they have been looking after the welfare of the people most. In fact, they have won the heart of the people. I think that is the right way to fight the insurgents.
What do you think the communist insurgents think of the royal family of Thailand?
I don't know, but I think you can search some of them. I think many of them have come, and many of not this time. I met once a man just came down from the mountain. He declared himself a communist, but he said he loves the king too. So how can one explain that? How can one call him a communist or what? I don't know.
We met a communist defector this morning who said, we asked him what were the communists telling villagers about the royal family, and he said that the communists tell the villagers that the royal family are the biggest capitalists of all in Thailand. What do you think of that?
I think the people will decide what to call us by themselves. They will decide. So we'll let the people decide. These young men, they have chosen to serve their country in the rural area. I'm very proud of them, indeed. เป็นเพื่อนกับร้อยเอกนรงค์เดชหรือเปล่าเป็นรุ่นน้องรุ่นเดียวกัน and he can sing beautifully. He can sing beautifully, and he play guitar also. He loves the people as well. He loves flower. He's an artist as well as soldier.
I hear that this evening you're going to see an exhibition of dancing.
Yes, it will take about only 10 minutes, but we are late, much too late.
After the day's visible work and activities are over, the king can spend 4, 5 or even 6 hours alone in his study at night, surrounded by teleprinters, radio sets tuned into police or army frequencies and other communication devices. He debriefs himself on the day and plans tomorrow's trip.
Could you explain what you're doing with these maps, please?
If I see something, you see circles there, places that can be developed, and you can see a place there with a red thing there. It's a kind of for damming and for making a small reservoir. And then when there are the engineers, the irrigation engineer, I can ask them if it is practical to do that. And sometimes they go and inspect the place and can have a survey on the spot.
Why do you have all these radio sets everywhere, all these receivers, transmitters, telexes? What are they all for?
Well, communication. I think that you should know that radio is for communication. I don't have television here.
I've heard people say that this is your personal intelligence network.
I wouldn't say intelligence, but sometimes it is very, very useful. Sometimes when you know about the news of some disaster hitting somewhere, you can help them very quickly, and that speed is the most important factor. So that they get the news by the telex or by the radio. Most of the what you hear there here doesn't concern me. It's sometimes there is a murder somewhere. Sometimes I can have some news of they have caught a caravan of heroin or something like that. It is better than to listen to the broadcast or other things.
When you sit here by yourself for several hours every evening, looking at your maps and listening to the radios, is that because you are a lonely man, or because you need to have some time by yourself after all the public side of your life outside?
That is a question that can be answered in many ways. I'm not lonely, and I have work to do, so I have to do the work. The way of doing work is to have some concentration, that is some peace, and then one can think more clearly. It is a way of preparing myself to be able to do whatever circumstances will have me to do. I gather information by listening. I gather information by looking at the maps or at reading or thinking, and then when time comes, I have the material in my head.
From this radio station in his Bangkok palace, Kitlada Villa, the king gives special broadcasts during any natural disaster such as floods or epidemics to launch appeals for the victims, as well as the more usual messages to the nation. In the grounds of the palace there is a school. It was started for the royal children. It is open to anyone intelligent enough to be accepted. There are over 350 children and every facility. The king is a firm believer in the pursuit of knowledge for its own sake, which he links to his Buddhist principles. An important part of rural development is the building of rural schools. It has been very difficult for the government to do anything about this. Lack of roads makes it hard to reach the remote villages. The building of roads is often sabotaged, and hundreds of teachers have already been murdered by the insurgents. The king decided to set up schools run by soldiers or border patrol police, with the soldiers or police doing the teaching. At first this was just primary education, but now it has expanded to secondary as well. This school is in the process of being built by the local people themselves. Youth and education occupy a great deal of the king's attention. He makes a point of giving every student his degree in person, and on an average he awards 23,900 degrees a year.
How important is it for you that on this graduation day it will be the king who will be giving you your certificate?
It means so much to me because my family teach me and teach my brothers, my sister that we must pay respect to him. We are very proud to be near him or to get something from him, like the degree.
It's very important to me because we all respect the king because he is the best king. My family and I and all the Thai citizens respect to him because he has done great beauty to this country. He means very much to us.
The students have given the king some of his most difficult times in his attempt to stay out of politics. Naturally, they have been the most vocal section of the country, the quickest to clamour for change. Over the years, the king's speeches on graduation days sound cautious notes. For instance, Not every established thing is rightly destroyed by violence, for what is put in its place may be worse. Real creativity can only be expressed by peaceful means. Expand your awareness, but use your knowledge for the development of the country as a whole. Not all students are happy with this. The students have been associated with the two occasions of greatest violence in Thailand during the 70s. In 1973, there was a student uprising in which 73 were killed. The demonstrations were against the corrupt military dictatorship of Field Marshal Thanom. On this occasion, the king had intervened on the students' side, and Thanom was exiled. A constitution was drafted, and there were 3 brief civilian governments. But with 55 different parties, parliamentary democracy proved extremely complicated. Then in October 1976 at Thammasat University, students gathered again to stage a mass protest against the return to Thailand of the ousted dictator Thanom. The student protest was brutally suppressed. 30 were killed. The riots at Thammasat served as a pretext for a military coup.
It has been suggested abroad that after the riots in October 76 at Thammasat, the royal family were themselves involved in some way in trying to help different factions come together, and that the royal family was instrumental in the changes that happened after those riots.
The royal family is in the limelight, so that if we think something, we do something, they will look at it. If they look at it, it doesn't mean that we are playing politics. And now, if after it is not the October 6 only, any action, even when I'm going out to look on the site of a small dam, or asking the people if they have had enough to eat this morning, I'm beginning to play politics. I'm accused of playing politics.
But at that time, your son was hanged in effigy. The alleged insult to the monarchy was used by various people. And it was also suggested that the royal family was involved somehow in defusing the crisis afterwards.
If it is alleged, or if they say that this was an attack on the royal family, it is the interpretation they give. It seems to be a very bad thing to defuse a crisis, because one touches politics. But if we try to speak and to put some reason into the head of people, I don't think that is so bad. And even the word defusing the situation, I don't think that is very bad. If you don't defuse a bomb, it will blow up. And if it blows up, it will be a very good fireworks, but for the one who looks from afar.
To what extent do you think that the King of Thailand is susceptible to being used by all the various groups?
It's quite normal that people will use the king. He's here to be used. Like in your country, in Britain, Her Majesty the Queen is doing her job, her duty, and is being used, if you want to use this word, use. When she opens the parliament, she is used by the government. as the spokesman of the government, and saying that the policy of Her Majesty's government is that. Her Majesty actually says, my government will do this and that during this year. She's used. So, in this country also, used. But the way of using depends on us also, that we are doing things that are good for the country, for the people, and we don't have any secret. So if things we are doing is very open, the various groups, as you say, cannot use us. Because if they use us, it will be to their detriment, it will be detrimental to them.
And how do you manage to keep yourself above all the people who might want to try and gain your influence? To keep yourself apart from that?
You have been in this country many days or weeks already. You have seen our work and you have filmed our work. We have had no secret for you, and you should have seen. We keep in the middle, neutral, and in peaceful coexistence with everybody. That is the way of doing it. We are in the middle. We could be crushed by both sides, but we are impartial. One day it will be very handy to have somebody impartial. Because if you have in a country only groups of political parties which will have their own interest at heart, what about those who don't have the power, who don't, they are just ordinary people who cannot make their view known? They must look up to somebody who is impartial. And if one wants to destroy somebody who is impartial, well, one destroys oneself. That is why one must keep this impartiality. And perhaps it is difficult, but it can be done.
The King's attitude is that there are more important things to think about than the working of the political system. The security of the country, for example. Here at Hoop Kapong, scene of one of the King's development projects, as in other villages throughout the country, a kind of villagers' home guard has been formed, in which both men and women serve. Their motto is, if you want to live in peace, you have to be prepared. The handicrafts were the Queen's idea. She encourages them in order to keep traditional crafts alive, and also to provide work for the villagers which will bring them extra income when they are not working in the land. The Queen herself has tried to help the marketing of these products, and in general spends much of her time on the education and training of women. But at Hoop Kapong, the main part of the project is a farmers' cooperative. The King bought the land himself and allocated it to landless farmers. They are not allowed to sell their holding or break it up into smaller farms, but may work it in perpetuity. The problem is drought. At first it was land fit only for lizards. But irrigation channels were dug and an experimental farm started. Then in 1967, 2 families were each given 10 acres of land to cultivate. They were successful, and a year later, 120 families were given similar holdings. Now, the cooperative produces many crops for sale. Not only tomatoes, but now more lucrative crops such as asparagus and pineapples, besides the usual maize, sugarcane, castor plant and cassava. The people of Hup Kapong are given training in management, the buying of supplies and marketing of produce. They seem happy to be working in what is obviously a thriving community.
2 ถุงละ20นะถุงละ10นะครึ่งโลอ่ะไม่ใช่อันนี้อร่อยดีเนี่ยถุงอะไรอันนี้กว่า
Queen Sirikit is also much concerned with community development. In May 1979, she received an international award in the Chakri Palace. Standing under the portraits of her predecessors, whom protocol did not allow to work as she does, Her Majesty was presented with the Ceres Medal of the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. The Ceres Medal is named after the Roman goddess of corn and fertility. And the 3 other people to receive the award are the late Margaret Mead, the distinguished anthropologist, President Carter's mother for her work with the Peace Corps, and Mother Teresa of the Calcutta slums.
I'm proud to be honored by the FAO awarding this Ceres Medal to me because the aim of Food and Agriculture Organization is to eliminate the worst form of human suffering, which is hunger.
There is a festival to celebrate the importance of agriculture, the annual ploughing ceremony in May, just before the rains. This rite is of very ancient origins. It is said to date from the time of the Buddha. But the consecrated women who carry the seed, and indeed more or less all aspects of the ceremony, show that it is a Brahmin one. At the start of the ceremony, the lord of the festival was offered 3 different lengths of cloth, the lengths concealed. His choice is an omen for the year's rain. Long cloth, little rain; short cloth, abundant rain. This year he chose the medium cloth, so medium rain. The king watches but does not participate. The lord of the festival who scatters the seed is nowadays always the Minister of Agriculture. After the ploughing, the oxen are offered a choice of 7 refreshments: rice, maize, hay, beans, sesame seed, water, and alcoholic liquor. It was decided that one had chosen hay, which heralds a good year for agriculture, the other the alcohol, which means communications and foreign trade. To us, it was not obvious that the oxen chose at all. The awards the king is now presenting to farmers are for the highest crop yields in the last harvest. Yet another linking of ancient traditions with present problems. After presenting the awards, there is a final parade. Once the king has left, there's a wild rush to scrounge some grains of the sacred rice, for the farmers believe that if they sow this rice among their crops, the crop will be abundant. The king does not rely totally on the blessing to make this rice seed the best there is. The seed sown at the ploughing ceremony is the specially selected strain from his experimental rice farm. Modern science and ancient rite smile at one another.
เหมือนกันครับ
This farmer comes from the barren northeast region near the Cambodian border.
มาได้ 2-3 ปีแล้วครับ
2-3 ปีแล้วจะมาอีกทุกปีต่อไป
มาครับ
มากับภรรยา2 คน
ครับ
แล้วพักที่ไหนฮะ
พักอยู่โรงแรมข้างหัวลำโพงครับ
แล้วจะกลับ
His journey by train to Bangkok, especially for the ceremony, took 14 hours.
คิดว่าคุ้มไหมที่เดินทางวันนี้
คุ้มเหมือนกันครับ
คุ้มนะ
ภูมิใจดีครับ
แล้วได้ค่าไปทุกปี
He has come here every year for the last 3 years.
ปีก่อนต้องซื้อทำไมไม่ทันเหรอเก็บไม่ทันครับ
His 5 grains of sacred rice have cost him 1 baht, 2.5 pence.
ได้ไป10 กว่าเม็ดซื้อ2 บาทครับ
The rice used in the ploughing ceremony is grown here in the King's experimental rice farm, whose aim has been to improve the quality of rice seed and in other ways to develop the technology of rice farming. This rice mill the King designed himself. The King's farm is in the grounds of Kitlada Villa, his main residence in the center of Bangkok. The Grand Palace is his ceremonial headquarters. In the dairy farm, they experiment with the best kinds of grass for cattle in the tropics and with ways to improve dairy technology. The King, as always, is specially concerned with the small farmer. The means to improve Thai agriculture are available. The problem lies in persuading the peasants to change their ways. There is a further complication. While the King offers better living standards through better farming, the insurgents are also at work. Since Thammasat, they have been greatly strengthened by students who fled to the hills. The students will not overthrow the Thai government, but if the peasants are converted to communism on a large scale, it will be a different matter. One of the dangerous areas is the north, the most isolated part of the country with the most backward living standards. This is the country of the hill tribes. Each village cut off from its neighbors by once thickly forested mountain ranges, very difficult to cross. This is one of the villages where the King is working to safeguard the forests from destruction and to show the hill tribes that there are more profitable crops than opium.
The first thing was not the project, was just trying to do something to improve a little their situation. We gave them some pigs, some piglets, and some fodder for the piglets, and some sorghum and other things to plant so that they can buy rice and buy some other commodities. At the same time that we try to help the people to have a better living, a better cultivation, a better food, a better way of life, we can at the same time help in the fighting against the narcotics.
The hill tribes are relatively recent immigrants to Thailand, most having gradually moved south from China since the 19th century. There are now about 300,000 of them, each with their own language and customs. In some of the tribes, the women do the work. Cultural differences between the various hill tribes are important to them. The separateness of each tribe and the fact that the hill tribes in general are so cut off from central Thailand creates problems for the King, who wants the country to see itself as one. The people of this village belong to the Karen tribe. The tying of protective threads round the wrists, a very special gesture of friendship from these hill people and extended to very few not of their own tribe. They call the King Father.
แม่ทำยาตกไปบอกนะหลวงเดียยาตกขายเมื่อกี้ให้ยาอะไรจ๊ะ
ทำตกเลย
Còn đứa phòng môi đi ra, mà lên đó. Còn đứa.
Con ní nát thải.
What does the visit of the royal family to this village mean to you? What does it mean to the village?
มีครับมีความหมายแล้วก็มีประโยชน์มากถือว่ามีบุญด้วยกันหมู่บ้านนี้
Has great meaning and great merit for the village. They feel a blessing on the
เมื่อ
occasion.
ก่อนยังไม่เคยมีมาเลย
This is the first time that His Majesty has come, so they feel a great sense of gratitude. The old people feel that they can now pass on to the other world as a result of having seen the King and the Queen before they died. The loyalty to the royal family will rise in the village.
บ้านนี้จะมีความรักต่อในหลวงมากขึ้น
Our love for them will increase, having seen them with their own eyes.
ได้เห็นด้วยตาด้วยตัวเอง
We've heard his voice with his own lips and have spoken to him with ours. They have heard of him and heard his voice over the radio, but now they have actually seen him, that he is a real live person and therefore takes on great personal meaning in their lives.
My husband and I are not content with only visiting or doing the conventional things. We must try to do something better than that. We must try to help the government to promote the welfare of the people because we are underdeveloped country. So the task of mere visiting the people as a conventional duty of head of state is nonsense. If we cannot participate in helping alleviate the misery of the people, then we consider it a failure to be a head of state.
How many people are there around here who don't approve of the royal visit? People who have a different point of view?
Oh, this students who went to the jungle. I don't know whether how much is there's truth in that. Just a rumor. I don't think you can rely too much on such a rumor.
But
the students who went to the jungle who are
it's communist sympathizers.
Yeah. I think that they're not counted among the people.
Always the maps, even in the lunch break. But it is not merely driving himself for the sake of driving himself. It is part of a very deliberate method of working. First, he listens to anyone who approaches him with a problem. Then he makes himself take time to think about the problem on his own. He will then propose a plan. Sometimes he will suggest a scheme to the government and leave them to implement it. Sometimes he will start an experimental project which he will initially finance himself. Increasingly, his pilot schemes are developed for general use throughout the country. There is often a lot more walking than this. Before the days of helicopters, much more walking still. Many of the villages can only be reached after walks of 3 or 4 hours. It is necessary to keep fit. The Queen can swim a mile without discomfort. All the royal family jog regularly, the King most often late at night after finishing work. Their energy is physical as well as mental. It has now been discovered that the north of Thailand can grow a vast variety of crops. Coffee is one of them, and coffee growing is developing rapidly. The King is now visiting a Meo village. The Meo are the largest in numbers of the hill tribes. There are about 50,000. which are subdivided into green mayo, black mayo, white mayo, red mayo, and striped mayo, so called from the colors of their skirts. Not all these subdivisions live in Thailand. As with other hill tribes, they are also found in Burma. The hill tribes of Burma and Thailand have far more in common with each other than either do with the countries in which they have been deemed citizens by map-drawing politicians. Up here, the king has worked very hard to encourage them to abandon their nomadic life and settle down as Thai citizens. The spotter aeroplane is always overhead in case of trouble. The problem with this country and so much of the north is not naturally poor soil, but erosion. The semi-nomadic tribes slash and burn the forests, cultivate their own patch until the soil is exhausted, and then move on to destroy more of the valuable teak forests. The erosion of the hills is causing floods in the plains. The main traditional crop of all the hill tribes is the opium poppy. The juice is extracted from the unripe fruit. Care must be taken not to slit right through, or the juice will flow inside and be lost, and also stop the seeds from ripening. Most of the opium is processed into heroin, but very little of the huge profits that the city middlemen get come back to the poor peasants who grow and smoke the opium. These people have smoked opium for centuries. They see nothing wrong with it. Indeed, it has been said that this kind of opium smoking is hardly more harmful than smoking tobacco. Furthermore, it is often used as a painkiller. The king refuses to punish the hill tribesmen as lawbreakers. Instead, he is very concerned to persuade them to grow alternative crops which can be more profitable than poppies. The king conjectured that the flowers and fruit trees of the temperate zone could be grown successfully in these upland regions of Thailand. He put experts to work, and it was discovered that he was right. Whether it be flowers such as carnations or fruit such as apples, peaches and strawberries, the produce will sell for far less in Bangkok than imports from Europe or America, and yet still earn the hill tribesmen a greater profit than they would get from opium. They even export bulbs to Holland. Schemes have also been started whereby plants are grown to a certain stage in these cooler uplands, which makes for stronger stock, and then transplanted to the plains, where they mature more rapidly in the greater heat. Such schemes, started by the king, are now backed by the United Nations as part of the war on drug production. They not only increase the hill tribes' prosperity, but also increase the opportunities for cooperation between the hill tribes and the Thais who live on the plains below them.
Isn't it true that most of the heroin, which is smuggled out of Thailand, actually comes across the border from Laos and Burma, and whatever you do with your projects, you still can't control that?
The role project can do to not to stop but to improve the situation is that so that the people here, many of them are the hill tribes, they have friends or they have relatives all over the route from Yunnan to Tibet and down to our country here. It's a long way, and they walk. They have communication, very good communication. Apart from what you can see in the mountains, there's something you cannot see. It's the spirit of these people. They come and go, and they say that there's the King's project. They spread the information. They are better than the information service of Bangkok. If we postulate that the opium is grown outside of this country and the heroin factories are outside of this country, only the trade comes through. Why should we go on helping these people to grow lettuces, if you want, or strawberries? Well, we have the opium or the narcotics problem is only one as I told you at the beginning, it's only one of the aspect of the problem, or say the task we have. The other task is to give these people a better way of life. So this we continue, even if, and I don't think it is very near future, if the opium is eradicated like smallpox has been. We have to continue this program for a long time, so that we give these people a better life, and also so that everyone will get the benefit of it.
Is the king's life at great risk on these trips? A member of the royal family, Princess Wipawati Ransit, while traveling by helicopter to a remote village, was shot down by insurgents and killed. The king's helicopter is painted in conspicuous colors. Princess Sirindhorn told us, "The insurgents shoot up the village on the day before we arrive and the day after we leave, but not on the day of our visit." That's how it is at the moment, anyhow. The royal family use helicopters to visit the more isolated parts of Thailand. Frequently on such visits, they perform life-saving service by removing sick people to hospital, or in the case of a border raid such as this, lifting out the dead and wounded. The king's work among the peasants takes him closer and closer to sharp personal danger. One day, perhaps, there will be communist insurgents who would not care much about murdering a king. There is all sorts of danger anyhow. Vietnamese troops on the border, communist subversion inside the country, and refugees in their hundreds of thousands putting strain on those who have to feed them and offering ideal cover for communist infiltrators. One of the king's many hobbies is firearms, and amongst other things, he has designed a gun mounting for helicopters. Is the time coming when he will have to put this knowledge to practical use?
พวงดอกไม้เบ่งบานสะล้อนฟูงพมร
The lotus, most famous flower of Thailand, a symbol of purity because its roots grow free of earth's corruption. A symbol of Buddhism, a symbol of meditation, a symbol of peace. And this is what is being threatened, the right of a peaceful nation to continue at peace. Even the Thai communists feel awkward about Buddhism. They mostly say at the moment that Buddhism and communism are compatible with each other. But Laos and Cambodia, where the temples have been destroyed and the monks killed, no different. Here the king is dedicating a chofar for a temple. This is a gable ornament in the form of the Naga, the sacred serpent and protective spirit. Devout Buddhist himself with his whole family, the king is patron and protector of all religions in the country. All religions which, so he believes, lead to the one truth. But it is Buddhism which is the central energy of the king. In addition, there is the hard fact of political survival. Buddhism is the most important unifier of the Thai people. Its defense is Thailand's justification for resisting communism. The king is also immensely important as a unifier of the people. As a central element in Thai Buddhism, the king strengthens the nation by reminding it of the nature of its soul. All this is threatened, not because the Thais wish to abolish it, but because communist imperialism wishes to destroy it, and the West is either indifferent to its destruction or too weak to prevent it. Buddha's birthday. His Majesty and Her Majesty praying in the temple of the Emerald Buddha, the soul of the Thai nation, the unifying center of the various forces of the country, army, religion, government. Without this, dare we say, the Thai nation would no longer be the Thai nation, but merely a province of some totalitarian Southeast Asian empire. The king leads a procession of candles 3 times round the temple of the Emerald Buddha. Throughout the country, the people follow him, in candle-lit procession 3 times round the temples, all over the country. It is odd to see Buddhists, whose religion is one that has no God, performing ritual acts like procession and prayer, which look so like the ritual acts of Christianity. Christianity describes the history of the world in terms of a battle between good and evil. It is therefore to be expected that Christian countries should have been torn apart by wars. But here there has been no philosophy to say that men must be converted even if their bodies are destroyed. That is, until the communists came to Cambodia, a country where, until a few years ago, such sights as these could also be seen. Buddhist morality uses the concept of merit-making. I make merit for myself by performing acts of charity to those around me. Then my next life will be a more pleasant one. So the king acquires merit for himself by feeding the monks as part of the ceremonies of Constitution Day. All monks must beg for their food every day, thus offering opportunity for the people who feed them to acquire merit. A monk, incidentally, eats only twice a day and must not eat after noon or before dawn. General Kriang Sak, the Prime Minister, attends the ceremony, which celebrates the abolition of absolute and the creation of constitutional monarchy. More or less every male Thai, kings included, becomes a monk for a short time in early manhood. A standard length of stay is 3 months during the rainy season between June and October, which is a kind of Buddhist Lent. The king spent 2 such weeks as a monk in 1956. On his entrance into the order, the king spoke to the nation and said, "From the training which I have received, as well as out of my own personal belief, it is my view that Buddhism, which is our national religion, is one of the great religions of the world. Buddhism teaches men to achieve good conduct and is rich in veritable precepts which are logical, highly impressive and inspiring. When a king is a monk, he is not obliged to beg his food from commoners. But King Bhumibol waived this rule and went out into the streets just like any other monk. The 4-year-old crown prince visits his father during his stay in the order. In 1978, at the age of 26, the Crown Prince also became a monk for 2 weeks. Like his father and the kings before him, the royal monks lived in Wat Bawanaway, King Mongkut's temple.
Why did you become a Buddhist monk for a couple of weeks?
I want to find out, I want to study. I want a real touch in, you cannot know or fully aware what it is like unless you become one. It's a start point. It's opened the doors into the world of Buddhism. It sort of wakes you up a bit. First 4 days, 5 days, it's very difficult. Normally you live a life of a layman and you suddenly change into a restriction and of rule of 227 rules. So you feel a bit close in.
Do you think that a king of Thailand will always have to be a devout Buddhist?
I think that is essential because Buddhism has governed our way of thinking. Buddhist teaching and the rule of governing the country for the monarchy, hundreds of years, thousands of years. It is a law anyway that the king must be Buddhist. Like in Britain, the Queen must be Church of England, cannot be Catholic or anything like that. Same.
The monarchy is the soul of the Thai nation. As the king arrives at this temple to pay respect to an old monk, respect to his purity and peace, the noise of the spotter plane, reminder of the king's constant danger, of Thailand's constant danger, grows louder and louder.
Your Majesty, how important is Buddhism for you, the precepts of Buddhism in your daily life as king?
Buddhist thought is rather complex and has many grades. There's the grade of Buddhism in the highest level is to attain absolute purity, which you call selfish motive, and that is true. It is selfish, purely selfish. But to attain this purity, you must do everything that is not selfish, which for you perhaps is a paradox. One must sacrifice, one must discard everything that one thinks that is one's own. Charity is one way to discard.
How important is meditation as a part of this process?
Meditation is a process that is very important because first you must have concentration. You must concentrate your mind so that you have a peace that is perhaps not lasting, but a peace in which you can see many things. To have the peace, the real peace, and then with this peace you will be able to see very clearly.
Usually my husband would come in earlier than I would and meditate, really meditate, because he could control his breathing and he could really concentrate. But I cannot concentrate and meditate yet. I'm learning. I only pray. But my husband said it's all right. That is the same thing as meditating.
Is it possible to be a practicing communist and a sincere practicing communist, and also a sincere practicing Buddhist.
What do you call sincere practicing communist?
The man who believes in communism.
The man who wants to be on the top.
Well, a man who sincerely believes in a communist principle of doing things.
We have sincerity is difficult to define. You may be sincere, but you may be wrong. So I don't know what is this word sincerity doing here. Practicing communist, usually the one who practices politics in any doctrine wants to be on the top. If you think of Buddhism, one doesn't want to be on the top because there's no top, there's no bottom. It's just pure purity.
I'm never afraid for my life because I believe in what the Buddha taught us, that never dwell in the past, never look at the future, doing your best now, and then you can be sure that the result would be good. So I pray every day for the strength to go on and work hard for the benefit of the Thai people.
Do you both believe in the idea of original sin, that every person is born with some kind of sin? Your Majesty,
There's no sin. There's no sin because as I told you, there is the original purity, which has been spoiled by or covered by what we call sin. This is just the opposite. It is the original purity, the original thing that is light, it is beautiful.
It's extraordinary when your mind is at peace, tranquil, then you don't feel the tiredness so much. You don't mind the pain or the tiredness. Just like the monk, the one I have here, he died of cancer at the throat. I asked him whether he felt the pain or not. He told me that if your mind is tranquil, then you don't feel any pain, not at all. You feel only that you have done the best of your life for the others. He said that's the only way to achieve happiness.
How do you both reconcile your faith in Buddhism, with its emphasis on not taking life, no bloodshed, with your role as head of the armed forces of an army and its campaign at the moment?
This is a problem. This is a problem, but when a soldier holds a gun, this gun should be intended to shoot. And shoot what? Shoot an enemy. That is a living being. But if he holds that gun with the intention of guarding, preserving his country, with this intention, he is not sinful. And even if he has somebody who comes and it's the enemy, he must shoot. He has to shoot. Why? Because he has the intention of guarding his country, of preserving his country. And, by the way, also the religion. If the enemy comes, the country is gone, it's destroyed, there's no religion, and there's no good.
Loving kindness is the real thing one should give to other person, to to give, not to take only, to give, to love. So that's the reason my husband and I can work year after year, day after day, without being ill. But we know that when it's time to die, nobody can escape. So it's better that we contribute as much as we can to society and reserve some small limited time for us. At first, I was very much afraid of death. But later on, I met a great teacher, a monk, who told me never to be afraid of death because it's natural occurrence. If you have good intention towards the others and you have done all you can do for your country and for human beings, even if you died, your soul or spirit or mind will be in peace.
Bye.